Found in the metadata of some of Deltarune Chapter 3 songs are dated back as far as 2019, but there's actually songs even older than that. According to the Undertale Deltarune Summer 2023 newsletter, Toby Fox composed a song for this chapter as early as 2016. The couch Susie and Chris wake up on has been transformed into the Dark World variant, even wearing a crown. Back in Chapter 2, Toriel told Susie, "Our couch is used to being used as a bed," likely referencing Asgore having to sleep on the couch during their breakup. The couch has a crown on it because it was once used as the king's bed. When naming Chris at the beginning of TV time, certain letters are unavailable. The three-letter names cannot end in G or X. Naming yourself something like Poo or P will reset the name input, and doing it twice will default your name to Bad, pairing nicely with Susie's name to make Badass. Naming censorship originally was going to go deeper than that, actually having Tenna cut to technical difficulties and changing Chris's name to Fun. This interaction was found in the game files and was likely removed due to the risk of an ESRB rating increase. Inputting either RAL or SUS for your name will result in Tenna pointing out how things will get confusing. Or the player could also go with ass like Susie to get some positive affirmations from her. Inputting KRS for Chris will result in Tenna saying no cursing. Alternatively, putting KRI for Chris's name will cause Tenna to say, "Well, don't cry until the ending, folks," a nod to one of Mother 1's taglines. That's not the only Mother/Earthbound reference in this segment of the game, as when given control of naming Chris, an Okesuka sound can be heard, similar to the sound effect used in Earthbound when confirming a character's name. Speaking of Earthbound, the Japanese release of Chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune just happened to land on Earthbound's 30th anniversary of release in North America, June 5th. Chapter 3 continues the tradition of spoken characters. Like Jevil and Queen, Tenna is also voiced by the game's creator, Toby Fox. TV time The Legend of Tenna is a pretty on-the-nose reference to The Legend of Zelda on NES, with the open-world puzzle solving and dungeon crawling being drawn from the series. Inspiration isn't just drawn from the original game, however, as the game Link's Awakening shares a few themes with Deltarune. The color scheme of the Egg Room even reflects the color palette of the original Game Boy, the platform Link's Awakening was released on. When asked what Chris's favorite food is, Chris will actually move the cursor down to pie and cough, signaling to the player the correct answer. The Quizzlers may have been intended to appear outside of The Legend of Tenna, as there are alternate sprites for them in the game files. El Nino and La Nino were designed by artist Nel Null, the same artist who designed Task Manager and Sweet Captain Cakes for Chapter 2. The player can intentionally lose the cooking minigame by constantly being hit by the fire and not delivering any food, resulting in 0 points. Tenna will restart the minigame, giving the fun gang some snippy lip for losing. Losing 4 times, Tenna will mention that famous angry chef and getting shut down, likely referencing Gordon Ramsay and Hell's Kitchen. If you're worried about Chris getting hurt by fire, don't worry. On the 6th loss, Tenna will admit to using imitation fire. After 9 times, Tenna will repeat himself, threatening to turn off the lose condition. During the cooking minigame, Susie wears a play on the Kiss the Cook apron, which now instead says Kiss the My Ass, to match her tood. It does look a bit weird, however, due to the pixels for the text being smaller than the pixels for the rest of the game, but some jokes are worth it. When completing board 1, Tenna says stop, 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 with the final stop being an actual stop sign. The graphic of a blue stop sign is a nod to Sans explaining the color mechanic in Undertale, saying stop signs are usually red, so imagine a blue stop sign when encountering a blue attack. The couches in the green room reflect Chris and Azrael's shared bedroom. Normally when the player plays against Susie in the racing minigame in the green room, they'll lose since the player's perspective doesn't show the screen. It actually is possible to win this game, as it is playable, just invisible. The water cooler enemy uses the same sprite as the one in Undertale's Hotlands. This enemy is foreshadowed to be a trapped spirit by Yashuda, saying, "Even the water spirits were put to the bottle and coo as coolers." This isn't the only Chapter 4 enemy in Chapter 3, as Bibliox can be seen when attempting to find the egg in this chapter. The song the band plays during Lightner's Live is Blood Crushers Raise Up Your Bat, the same song on Noel's blog during the Spamton sweepstakes, though the blog plays a different song entirely. This is why the song has the theme of Lost Girl, as Blood Crushers the band was one of the musicians featured on the naughty music video channel Des would watch when visiting Chris's house, as mentioned by Tenna. Ralsei will scream the last note of the TV time rhythm game when played in Castletown, seemingly embarrassed by getting so into it. All the channels seen at the end of Chapter 2 are now mini-games and story elements in Chapter 3. Putting 1, 2, 2, 5 points in the gumball machine in Room B leads to a bizarre Easter egg. The room will be empty and Chris must enter the gumball machine, finding themselves in a massive maze. This was referenced in Noel's blog, talking about an impossible maze that would always bring you back to the beginning until you go up. Of course, there are no boundaries and the player can walk anywhere, but while they explore, the tune of Lost Girl can be heard. Eventually, the player will stumble upon a blue gumball machine, seeing a hard lacquer triangle, but unable to grab it as it phases through Chris's hand. They then can't find their own hand before being sent back. This whole ordeal points to Death's Holiday, as the triangle is likely a guitar pick, and the number 1225 is 1225, Christmas Day. In September of 2023, the Undertale/Deltarune newsletter included a song for a scrapped stealth section. This song still exists in the game's files, and we now know that the stealth section was reworked as opposed to removed. The worry was that a minigame where the player moves slowly would be boring, which is why the party moves faster when sneaking. Attempting to leave the room where the water cooler front chest is during the stealth segment will result in 2 water coolers blocking either way. One of the TV quiz rooms during the escape is a broken monitor that reveals a hidden back room. This room is a secret area being looted by Darkners, but there's one thing they didn't take. Within a cabinet is one of Spamton's peepuses, revealed to be one of Tenna's most valued possessions. If the player has one of Spamton's items from Chapter 2, Tenna and Spamton will be reunited, but it's not the happy reunion Spamton expected. If the player doesn't have either Spamton items, the peepus can be placed in inventory. It will make noises periodically as the player progresses the chapter. Spamton being sprayed down with foam was foreshadowed by the Undertale/Deltarune newsletter. Members who selected the Truck Freak or highest tier of the newsletter were sent this image of Toby Fox covered in foam by accident, in big air quotes, paralleling what would happen to Spamton in this scene. Tenna's pose when spraying Spamton also seems to be a reference to the Book of Reverse Bimbofication, an illustration that was widely made fun of back in 2017 for being fetish art. Tenna's design went through a few changes during production. Back in 2016, Toby Fox began learning 3D modeling and purchased an Xbox Kinect to rotoscope the character's movements, hoping to go with a rotoscope lineless 3D model like in Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. The next idea was to have a rigged Tenna doing MMD dances, but that idea didn't pan out either. Finally, we got what we have today, a rigged 3D model translated into pixel art. A number of Tenna's animations can actually be found on Mixamo, a free-to-use rigging and animating software for 3D models. Despite wanting to be big, Spamton Neo is still shorter than full-size Tenna. Having a Spamton item during Tenna's fight will change the check action to be from the perspective of Spamton. This currently doesn't seem to work if the player has the Shadow Mantle, having the mantle's new check in its place. Additionally, having either of Jebel's items will allow Susie to bet more points on the outcome of a turn, with Jebel's laugh setting the bet. Throughout Chapter 3, a number of characters sneeze. This is due to Tenna being unused for so long. As revealed later on in the chapter, fewer and fewer people stop by to watch him. This was even foreshadowed in earlier chapters, as when examining the TV in Chris's house, the text describes it as old, unplugged, and unused. During the rules fight of this chapter, if the player waits long enough when Lancer first plays his card, the act buttons will be replaced with the annoying dog. Pressing the dog several times plays a Smash Bros. Easter egg akin to character reveal trailers. The original Starwalker appears a few times in this chapter if they were found all the way back in Chapter 1. In the first room before the TV show begins, he'll be in the far left of the stage. Then in the jail room with Golden Sam. After the second round against El Nino, La Nino, and Rules, he'll make an appearance. Then he'll help with the Susie Zilla segment of Tenna's fight. And finally, backtracking to the Gotcha Balls, he'll be there too. The parental lock is a play on words, as it's an actual lock one of Chris's parents is behind. Who do you think taught you to laugh and cry is a line from Tenna's fight, likely referencing the opening of the show Family Guy. This isn't the only time Family Guy has been referenced, as back in Chapter 2, Queen's social media attack contains the words Top 10, Family, Guy, Funny, and Moments, a nod to compilation videos of the show. The Shadow Mantle obtainable in a secret area of the game was first mentioned by Sham in Chapter 2. After presenting 2 of the Shadow Crystals from secret bosses, Sham will lament that he cannot find the Shadow Mantle, and without it, the amount the party has will remain at 2. The Shadow Mantle is pretty much required to survive the night encounter at the end of Chapter 3. Tenna losing his arms parallels Mettaton losing his arms in Undertale. Tenna has a bunch of lines about Toriel and Asgore's divorce. The family is fighting again, the family's back together, families fight sometimes, tell him Chris, all because Tenna would have been front and center for their arguments. The Ralsei plushie seen throughout this chapter is an actual plushie from Fangamer's website. Entering the S-rank room leaves Susie and Ralsei behind, but they aren't just waiting for Chris to return on the other side of the door. During the dark green room segment, instead of going up into the secret room, go down and walk the hallway to get a glimpse back in the waiting room. Susie and Ralsei will be playing the racing game in your absence. It is possible to explore the northern part of Board 2 in the Legend of Tenna if the player waits for Tenna to leave before backtracking and taking the raft upward. With the release of Deltarune Chapter 3 came the worry that fans wouldn't like the focal character of this part of the game due to Tenna's similarity to Spamton. These two characters were fully intended to be two sides of the same coin, even sharing several physical characteristics and many musical motifs. Tenna and Spamton also saying turn up the juice, make sure you don't get it on your shoes during both of their fights. In a Hello Indie interview with Nintendo, Toby Fox stated that the original version of Chapter 3 was longer than the release version. This is due to an entire section being removed due to pacing reasons. We weren't told specifically what was cut, but we assume it was a more flushed out cowboy segment than the shootout minigame, as Tenna has unused Quizler questions about a puppet cowboy show Asgore likes to watch, as well as teased cowboy sprites for Chris and Susie in the Spamton sweepstakes that ultimately went unused. Chris's sliding sprite has been updated from previous chapters. When entering the S-rank room to do the Shadow Mantle minigames between on-screen boards, the title of the game is always cut off before Chris inserts a controller. Taking a look at a still of the title reveals the word mantle. The Shadow Mantle is likely the cape that flew off the king in Chapter 1. Not only due to it being a sentient cape, but also during a Fangamer livestream, Toby Fox said, "Nice mantle, bro," when the king was defeated. Just like Chapters 1 and 2, there's a secret egg obtainable from the man, but it's far more complicated than going back and forth between rooms. It involves finding Tenna's hidden peepus, throwing a block across a river, getting caught in a spotlight and answering in a specific way, pushing the block a specific way to complete a different puzzle, talk to an old wizard several times, searching his cabinet only to discover you had the ticket you needed on you the whole time, fighting a specific enemy, and literally walking away before finally being brought to the area with the man. A few of the Roaring Night attacks have these star effects that burst into smaller projectiles. Fans of Earthbound may find these familiar, as they look awfully similar to the star effect used in attacks like PSI Starstorm Alpha. The intro to Knight's fight music, Black Knife, sounds similar to Burn in Despair from the Undertale soundtrack. Taking 0 damage during the night fight will cause Chris to cough in a sort of let's wrap this up fashion. Chris will also point into the darkness away from the knight when attempting to check them in the latter half of this fight, so he can't identify them. The night fight may be difficult, but it was actually going to be way harder. There's a number of unused attack patterns that ultimately didn't make it into the fight, likely unused due to being placeholders or too difficult. The icon of Tenna's smile will change to the knight in the chapter select after Chapter 3 is completed.